Hi guys, welcome to Office Blokes React. I'm Office Bloke Dave.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
Office Bloke Daz.
Together we're the Office Blokes, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Aye.
Why so few Americans live in this huge area of the East Coast? Which area? Got any guesses?
Probably the Carolinas, is it?
Do you think it's going to be north or south? Because it gets quite cold when you go up
the
the
huge
north,
area might stretch from Georgia to South Carolina to North Carolina to maybe even to Virginia.
Is that going to be like hurricane land?
Or
is like in the bay of...
I just think you're surrounded by, you've got the New York sort of like tri-state area there, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut sort of area, which is quite populated. They're not just a bit further north. You've got the Boston sort of like area, Massachusetts. Come down a bit, you've got Washington DC. Then you've got Miami, Florida, and you've got that gap in between. So you've got a lot going on in Florida with weather-wise, nice weather and all that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia offers as much as what Miami, New York, Philadelphia.
So you think people are just like
biggest city? They don't offer like industry.
So almost like the flyover state concept.
Maybe
people
maybe. I mean, you've got ports down there. You got like Savannah in Georgia and places like and certain parts in beautiful places, beautiful areas, North and South Carolina. I might be wrong. But I'm thinking the East Coast. That's the only place I can really think, unless you're going right up to the northern parts, like Maine and.
That's what I'm thinking, where it's cold. But then, isn't it loads of tourism because it's beautiful up there as well?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, but it's I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of.
I suppose you get certain places that have been populated for like a couple of hundred years and they've sort of like stayed like that. Then there's only so many people to go around, and like say if all the industries are in certain areas, it's difficult to set up to fill out a state because the place is that big.
Yeah,
I
hope we're all completely wrong.
Yeah, I mean, you've got places like Atlanta, but it's not. It's inland a little bit. It's not coastal, but when you look at them coastal areas, I just think there's more population up in the north, and then they're probably than there is in the. I might be thinking Georgia down. Don't know if you come South Carolina, Georgia, Florida.
It's possible. It's possible. Let's find out why so few Americans live in this huge area of the East Coast. Let's do it. If I can find them out.
Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina are home to over 26 million people between the three of them. Despite this, every major metropolitan area within these three states are located well inland away from the Atlantic coast, which is very different from the northeastern states and Florida. So why don't more people live in the empty East Coast?
Kind of like I wrote this.
Hello and welcome to Geography by Jeff. Today we're off to explore another relatively empty region of the United States. This time though, we're heading to the southeast. And while this area does have millions of people living in it, compared to the northeast and Florida, it's quite odd that there aren't more people living on the coast of this region. And as usual, there's a geographic reason for this. But first, this week I have an extra special podcast episode where Hunter and I ran through various other underpopulated regions of the country in even greater detail. I also run through a few additional empty regions of the country that will be featured on this channel in the future. You can listen right now by clicking this link or by looking in the description below. The empty East Coast, encompassing the eastern counties of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, is home to a pretty unique range of geographic features that have both facilitated and hindered human settlement and economic activity. The region we're talking about in this video is generally characterized by smooth, sandy beaches, barrier islands, and extensive salt marshes. These barrier islands, while very picturesque and emblematic of the southeast coast, offer a sort of double-edged sword. They provide some protection against the wrath of the Atlantic, but are often not stable enough to support large-scale, permanent human activities such as major port operations. Further inland, the land starts to rise gradually into the rolling hills and low mountains, offering a different set of opportunities and challenges. This geography has influenced the types of industries that have flourished here, historically centered around agriculture, especially the plantation economy of cash crops like tobacco, cotton, and rice in Georgia and South Carolina. It was this penchant for plantations and agriculture that would eventually lead to a drastic increase in slavery within these states, as running such enormous operations required an incredible amount of labor. This part of the Southeast history has left an indelible mark not only on the economy of the region, but also the demographic makeup of the Southeast, which is still home to the majority of Black Americans. As of 2021, the entire southern region of the United States was home to about 56% of the country's Black population, with Atlanta alone being home to about 2.2 million, behind only New York City. In North Carolina, the topography becomes a bit more varied, with the flat coastal plain giving way to the elevated Piedmont region and eventually the Appalachian Mountains. adding forestry and mining to the region's economic activities. The empty East Coast is also marked by significant rivers such as the Savannah, which also serves as the natural boundary between Georgia and South Carolina, and the Cape Fear River in North Carolina. But while these rivers have been essential for internal trade and transport, they were not large enough to facilitate any meaningful amount of maritime trade in the same way that the Mississippi River and St. Lawrence River were for the Midwest of the United States and Canada, respectively. Finally, another important aspect to consider is the region's vulnerability to climate extremes, particularly hurricanes. This has not only shaped the natural landscape.
We smashed this without even watching the video, didn't we?
I know.
It looks pretty nice though down there.
It's some beautiful. I've been to Savannah. Yeah. I've been in Atlanta. I've been to a few places in Georgia. I've been quite a few places in North and South Carolina. But I tell you what, it's beautiful. Some great golfing, like Myrtle Beach and places like that.
Oh,
in the Carolinas, yeah, beautiful.
Nice.
I guess just from what he's talking about here or alluding to is just it's not easy to get the industry there in the first place to then have a bustling metropolitan.
Do you know the way I always looked at when I always looked at South Carolina and places like with like for me when I lived in the Northeast, it was like, where do you want to go for a getaway where you've got the weather in the Northeast in the summer sort of thing, but when you sort of like get around spring and fall and you think it gets a little bit chilly, and South Carolina was like a holiday destination, so they were advertising Myrtle Beach to go and play golf and go down there, and certain places in Georgia. It was like almost like a getaway. It wasn't too far. You could probably drive it in like 8 to 12 hours or whatever it was, and you go down there and it'd be like got great golf. You got great facilities. Yeah. Sun was shining. The weather was sort of like extended. The summers were extended, and it was like a great getaway to go on some of the best golf courses in the USA, in the Carolinas sort of thing. But it was one of them. For me, I always looked at it as more of like a vacation resort as opposed to like a big city. Yeah. I don't know if you wanted the big city work and sort of like Grafton or like you're in the New York tri-state area sort of thing, or you're in Philadelphia or in Miami sort of thing. But whereas you wanted a bit of a holiday resort, a bit of a laid back sort of like sensation feel to it. Apart from Atlanta, which is a bit further inland as well. Yeah. But you'd hit then North and South Carolina if you wanted like that vacation spot. Yeah.
But also human activity and settlement patterns. The risk of natural disasters has always been a background factor in planning and development along the coast of this region specifically. Since 1990, 56 hurricanes and tropical storms have slammed into this region specifically, making it one of the most dangerous areas to live in with regards to natural disaster preparedness. Only Florida gets more hurricanes overall, but that's due to a combination of receiving hurricanes from the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. The empty East is a fascinating region of the country. But if you haven't picked up on it yet, its history and geography have created issues in establishing large population centers on the coast, and we're going to explore why that is right now. But first, if you're enjoying this video, hit that subscribe button. More fun geography videos are just a single click away. The southeast coast of the United States, specifically the states of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, evolved in a much different manner from their northern neighbors. Unlike states such as New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts, with their deep, glacier-carved harbors that facilitated the growth of major urban centers, the southeast coastline has a vast swath of barrier islands, salt marshes, and flat plains. The absence of natural harbors along this stretch meant that these states never developed into significant maritime trade hubs. And it's this geographic constraint that led to a cascading effect on the region's population, steering it towards an agricultural focus that has had lasting implications well into today. The region's barrier islands provide some shelter against the Atlantic Ocean, but aren't actually stable enough to support large-scale maritime activities required for major port activities. New York City, for example, is built on a natural harbor that was formed by glaciated ice tens of thousands of years ago, which has allowed it to pack so much weight on top of it with minimal impact. Without the benefits of natural harbors, the southeastern states couldn't easily partake in the transatlantic trade that catalyzed the industrialization and urbanization of northeastern cities. Instead, the Southeast saw a growth of the plantation economies driven by cash crops like rice, cotton, and tobacco. The broad, flat lands away from the coast were well suited for large-scale agriculture, and the hot, humid climate of the region provided an ideal environment for these crops to thrive. Plantations required a large labor force, leading to the horrible importation and enslavement of Africans, a historic atrocity that has had enduring social and cultural consequences for the region and the country at large. And unlike the diversified economies of the Northeast, which included manufacturing, shipping, and eventually technology, the Southeast became economically specialized in the plantation economy, fueled by forced labor of slaves. And it was this exact plantation economy which also discouraged urbanization. Plantations were largely self-sufficient entities that didn't rely on urban centers for labor or goods in the same way that manufacturing did. The small towns and cities that did emerge were usually oriented towards supporting agricultural practices, not industrial production. Even the significant rivers in this region, such as the Savannah and Cape Fear, couldn't compensate for the lack of natural harbors, serving more as conduits for internal trade rather than gateways for international commerce.
Pretty sure Savannah's got a major port. I don't know how far back he's going here, whether he's going dating back, and Savannah's been dredged and turned into an industrial port. I don't know. I don't know the history of it, but I know it's a major port.
Right, okay.
I think he's more talking about the naturally occurring ports during the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, maybe.
Push trade
You can get why New York could get it anyway, because they're closer to Europe as well, aren't they? From like Europe over to the US, then obviously New York is the closest as well, isn't it? So obviously that's going to grow more.
Yeah.
But it's the quickest crossings.
Yeah.
I suppose the thing he's talking about with the slave trade as well is, it probably was very viable there when you didn't have to pay your workers.
And then when they space to grow things, so they didn't need a big city there. They just needed space for crops and things, I suppose.
Yeah, but I wonder why it's never attracted people further from development, future development.
Yeah.
We're seeing new towns here. We try to sort of like get away from the London sort of like domination of what we've got in the south. To sort of like bring it further north. Although the north started it, and it's also like disappeared from the north and gone south.
Yeah. But you certainly think these days with other industries available, like technology and stuff, that's something they can build. You don't need to.
Maybe it is changing. Maybe this is sort of like talking about, like I say, maybe it's talking historical, like you say, as opposed to a more modern sort of like approach to it.
America's that vast though, with every climate, and loads of industries and so much space that there could be areas where it's like it's just not that hospitable for
So maybe with the hurricanes and stuff, maybe that is something that puts big business off. Building big factories and things. I don't know.
We could put it there with loads of risk from hurricanes and loads of other issues, or we could just go there. And that's probably the decisions being made, isn't it?
But you've got me in Florida though as well.
Today, the legacy of this geography continues to be felt. Even as the modern economy diversifies and technology diminishes the limitations of geography, the Southeast's historic focus on agriculture has left an indelible imprint. Although cities like Atlanta and Charlotte have emerged as major metropolitan areas due to becoming transportation hubs and diversifying their economies, the coastal areas still bear the marks of a bygone era dominated by plantations and an agrarian lifestyle. While the coastal regions of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina are rich in natural beauty, they haven't attracted the dense populations we see in areas like the Northeast, Florida, or even the nearby metropolitan centers like Atlanta and Charlotte. Setting aside historical factors such as the lack of natural harbors and a plantation-focused economy, several contemporary reasons explain this discrepancy in population density. Cities and metropolitan areas are the primary magnets of population, and job opportunities in these coastal regions are often less abundant and diverse compared to other regions of the country. While tourism and some forms of agriculture and fishing are prominent, there just aren't that many jobs within these industries as compared to popular industries like manufacturing. And while major metropolitan areas like Atlanta, Charlotte, and the Raleigh-Durham Research Triangle have become major corporate hubs, attracting young professionals and creating a wide range of jobs, they've become all-consuming for the region at large. In a way, these metro regions have sucked the economic vitality from cities that might otherwise have become a major city on the coast. And much of this comes on the back of infrastructure, specifically as it relates to transportation. Major cities are often transportation hubs, making it easy for residents to travel both domestically and internationally. And in this region specifically, Atlanta has become the dominant transportation hub, sucking the air out of most other regional cities. Atlanta was once known for being one of the largest rail hubs in the country and continues to have the largest airport. As such, cities like Savannah, Georgia do not have nearly as many transportation options, thus further discouraging businesses to set up shop in them. Today, the entire region we're talking about is home to just over 10 million people. That's actually quite a lot of people. But compared to the development of other regions in the eastern half of the country, it's still relatively empty. The largest metropolitan areas in the region would be Columbia and Charleston, South Carolina, with about 820,000 and 800,000 people respectively, Fayetteville and Wilmington, North Carolina, with 520,000 and 282,000 people, and Savannah, Georgia, with 404,000 people. And while none of these metro areas are tiny, all of them combined are less than half of Atlanta's 6.1 million people, which is interesting because Charleston specifically predates Atlanta by more than 150 years. Interestingly, despite Atlanta being far and away the largest city in the southern region of the country, Charleston, South Carolina predates Georgia's capital by more than 150 years, and given its location on the Atlantic coast, the desire by colonial rulers for easy access to their new lands, and a need for transportation methods tied to water, the South Carolina city probably should have grown to become the dominant southeast city and not Atlanta. But alas, that's not how history typically goes. One of the key factors in the evolution of the two cities is the role Atlanta has played as a transportation hub. Initially founded as a railway junction named Terminus, Atlanta's strategic location offered a nexus for multiple forms of transport, linking the agricultural richness of the South with markets in the Midwest and Northeast. This central positioning was further bolstered by the development of the Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, which has grown to become one of the busiest airports in the world, attracting businesses and residents alike. And while Charleston has had over 100 years head start, its physical geography was limiting in a way that Atlanta's was not. You see, Charleston is located on a peninsula, constrained by the Cooper and Ashley rivers and the Atlantic Ocean. This geographical limitation has somewhat curtailed its ability to expand, unlike Atlanta, which had more room for outward growth and development. The low-lying coastal terrain around Charleston also makes it more vulnerable to sea level rise and extreme weather events, possibly deterring some forms of heavy investment and large-scale urban development. Social and cultural factors have also played into the city's divergent paths. While both cities are vibrant cultural centers, Atlanta has garnered a reputation as the unofficial capital of the South, attracting international events like the 1996 Summer Olympics and serving as the birthplace of influential civil rights movements. Charleston, though culturally rich and historically significant, has not been the stage for events of similar international or national impact. Bottom line, Atlanta simply had too much going for it when it was founded that, by 1890, it was already larger than South Carolina's most populous city. It's really interesting looking at the Northeast and Southeast and how they've developed geographically. There's almost a line you can draw where, as you head south, you can see the major population centers drift away from the Atlantic coast. But while many of these coastal communities lack the same population as Atlanta or Charlotte, they still have much or more to offer in terms of cultural and historic amenities. I hope you enjoyed learning more about the United States empty.
Interesting, that.
It is, because I'd live in them areas tomorrow. It's
look beautiful.
Charleston and Charleston, Savannah, and places like
really
that.
Nice
Yeah,
architecture and everything looks really nice.
Beautiful. Like I say, Savannah's a big port. Charleston's a big port. Wilmington's a big port for certain things. Certain sort of like commodities. You think, big ports go in there, but if you got Atlanta as a rail terminal, then you connected straight to Savannah anyway via a rail terminal, so it makes no difference. Yeah, don't know where you are. Manchester's a massive terminal. What's it? We're not on the coast.
Yeah, true.
That's why the ship canal was built.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, I wonder if Florida being a retirement place as well, takes, because a lot of the appeal and the charm of that sort of area would be potentially tourism and retirement. You want to go somewhere a bit quieter next to the coast where it's beautiful.
Yeah,
you want the warmer climate as well, don't you?
Yeah,
sort of thing.
Yeah, which I think you get there as well, don't you?
You do, yeah.
But then
not as good as Florida probably.
But I think Florida have a great tide, don't they, in the winter? Well, lots of people go from the north and go down for the weather.
Yeah.
So, maybe that's the demographic that would have filled that area had Florida not been there to fill
Business
that.
always has a big say in it, doesn't it? Industrialisation and things like that.
Like you say, I've been to Atlanta. It's a great place, and it's booming. It's a real vibrant city.
Big place as well.
One of the top cities in the USA, probably.
Is it really?
Probably. It's it's got everything you need, hasn't it?
Well, if it's got the biggest
airport, it's got the biggest airport. It's got sport. It's got everything you need. It's got a football team, basketball.
Yeah, I mean, if you're attracting the Olympics there, you've got to be pretty good, haven't you?
Yeah. The infrastructure must be in place.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's the World Cup that's in the States, isn't it?
Yeah.
2026, is it?
Yeah.
It is,
the next one.
Yeah. In the summer as well.
In the summer, which is where it should be.
And is it on the east or the west coast?
Or is it both? Sort of everywhere.
It's in Canada and Mexico.
Ah, right, okay.
But the finals, it's final at the Sophie
Stadium, I think. I think it is. I think it's where it's penciled in for, isn't it?
It looks like. I'm trying to get an idea of what time the games are going to be on. That's all.
Oh,
yeah. In the afternoon.
Yeah,
we've had them in the USA before.
Yeah.
98, was it? Yeah, USA 98?
Ooh.
Oh, France was 98, wasn't it?
France 98, wasn't it?
USA 96. 94? 94. Sorry, 94.
I think it might be 94.
I think it was 94.
Yeah.
We didn't qualify.
Yeah, I think you might be right there.
I think it was 94. Italian, Roberto Baggio and Ireland and all that. With Ireland,
absolutely right.
Had all the issues, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right, of course.
Don't want it to be like the Super Bowl though, where it's like 3 a.m. They've got to watch it.
Afternoon will do me. That'll be fine.
It'll be the afternoon. It'll be the afternoon and evening.
Yeah.
Good.
Sounds good.
Probably like 9 o'clock latest start time over here.
Yeah.
For the games, probably.
Nice.
Thinking.
That should be good. Looking forward to it.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Let us know in the comments what you think. And don't forget, like and subscribe. We'll catch you on the next one.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.